My name is Naomi Schaefer. I'm the Executive Director of Clowns Without Borders, and I am so excited to welcome Sophie Besse of PsychDelight Theater to talk about joy as resistance.
Hi, thank you for having me. So my name is Sophie Besse. I'm based in London, but I'm French originally, but been living here for like over 17 years now. I'm a theatre director, writer, but also a psychotherapist. So yeah, I use drama as a way to help people express themselves and raise awareness about difficult situations they might encounter. And I try to provide a platform for them to be heard. So I do what we call participatory theatre.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the mission of your theater company, and then also what some of those different programs look like?
So one thing very important in my theatre company is the fact that we do participatory theatre. So for me, it's really important to do theatre with people, to create shows with people, rather than shows about things they've experienced that would be performed by traditional actors, I would say. So it's really to give a place for people to be heard. Um, and we also celebrate coming together and diversity. We desperately try to build bridges between communities, which is not an easy thing nowadays, but that's definitely what we try to do. So we run workshops and create shows that mix people from different communities. So we run some what we call the Together workshop every Wednesday and Sundays. They are free, everyone can attend, and they welcome asylum seekers in this country. And it's with European people, UK people, and we do games together, everything that can really bring people together and give an opportunity for people to meet, share, and learn from each other. And we also create shows. So Borderline was, I guess, probably the one we're going to talk the most about. Was a good example of that, a satire of the Calais jungle that was created and devised by an ensemble of 13 performers, half of them with an experience of seeking asylum in this country and who had lived in the Calais jungle, and 7 others who were European performers. And my aim was to bring them together and see if we could achieve to become a theatre ensemble, if that was even possible, considering the difference in background, life experience, religion. And for me, I was hoping this could happen as an example for a bigger society, I guess.
Thank you. That's something that comes up a lot on Clowns Without Borders teams. Is often the team will meet for the first time in the place they're going to perform. So they have 2 or 3 days to make a show. It's artists coming from different countries, different cultures, different training, and I'd love to hear for Borderline, how did that work? Either what were some things that worked, or maybe examples of, oh, what were challenges of creating a company and a process that also had borders to cross?
Um, so, uh, it was not instant, obviously. Clowning helped a lot. So we had a 6 weeks devising process, and I would say that the first 2 to 3 weeks were about bonding the group. We had a clown facilitator, Frank Witzinger, who came to run some workshops with us, which gave me also a bit of allowed me to have a bit of a step back to understand who was in the room and take some notes. So yes, a lot of games, a lot of hummus. The rule was we had to take lunch together. So no sandwiches apart. It was always we were cooking and sharing food. So hummus was awarded best food for vegan, veggie, Muslim people. So that was we all put on a lot of weight, but that was brilliant. And yeah, so I'd say games, because what was wonderful is we realized actually that a lot of our childhood games were things we had in common, grandmother's footstep, things like that. So I think it instantly, I mean, not instantly, but quite quickly put people in a playful place that they knew, that they probably missed and related to. And so it was an amazing way to experiment being on stage without performing at first, and just enjoying being playful and silly together. And that really helped bringing the comedy vibe in the room, and the trust, building the trust. We did a lot of trust games as well, and talking and chatting and eating. I'd say that would be the first thing. Of course, language was an issue. There were like, I don't know, maybe 6 different languages in the room, because we had English people, of course, but I'm French. So there was people speaking Spanish, and of course Arabic, Pashto. So luckily we had some performers who could translate. So I was lucky to have one Syrian performer, Bara, who could translate, and Nakib from Afghanistan, who could also translate for the other Afghani performer. So during the first week, there was still a lot of translation going on. I think until the trust was there, people wanted to check they understood exactly what was going on. Luckily for me, because I'm a foreigner myself, I talk with my hands a lot. I'm used to not being able to completely fully express myself with my words. So I used to jump on stage and just show stuff or do stuff, and I think that helped as well. And little by little, magically, the translation disappeared. We kind of, without even saying it, decided that all confusion was just an opportunity for more comedy, and so we just went on with that. Like I still remember a few moments where I tried to explain something, it didn't work, and the fact that it didn't work was brilliant, because what came out of that was really, really fun.
Do
So
you have
yeah.
an example of that?
Yeah, there was a scene, so in Borderline, where so there's a black market, so the people are waiting for the donations, and then when they don't like what they got, what they bought, they sell it on the black market. And so we were working on this scene, the black market, and so we had decided that one of the performers had a leather jacket, pretending that this leather jacket had belonged to Jude Law, so famous English actor who was on TV for being in the jungle and stuff. So that was a bit of a comedy thing for us, because we didn't really think that was necessarily something very important for him, but maybe more like a advertisement kind of publicity. And the guys were struggling to say Jude Law. I can't even say it myself properly. So that we were repeating that, and then one of the actor who was supposed to pretend to buy the jacket was like, "Oh, I've got Jude Law jacket, and I've got Jude Law's wife and Jude Law's car," and so he got completely overwhelmed with this Jude Law thing. So he started to say he had everything from Jude Law and Jude Law's girlfriend. I was like, no, it's okay. One Jude Law is good, yeah. You understand? He was like, yeah, Sophie, yeah. And then he continued, "Oh, and I have Jude Law motorbike and then Jude Law car." And I was like, okay, forget it, perfect. And so then he kept the scene saying he had everything from Jude Law. That was our private joke that made us laugh a lot. And yeah, because we had made such an emphasis on his name, that became really the joke during the show. Was Jude Law jacket, Jude Law motorbike. It was really nice.
I love that the performance got to also include those moments, and like that dynamic of confusion in a rehearsal process, and that moment where you're like, oh no, we were playing different games. And I have that all the time where I'm like, oh great, we both, I can be like, oh, do you know this mirror game? And I'll be playing it with someone and be like, oh no, we're playing totally different games.
Yeah.
And as long as we agree that it's okay, and that agreement to not fully understand.
But
Oh yeah.
I think it's the pleasure of being on stage. I mean, in Ayat, so this young performer who was one of the youngest one, he was 16 at that time. He's a big fan of Bollywood movie. He's from Afghanistan. He crossed from Afghanistan on his own, walked all the way, and then took the train, went to like really hard journey. But he loves making people laugh. That's his thing. He said, Sophie, I'm tired of sadness. I had enough. Yeah, making people laugh makes me feel better. And I remember before the premiering the show, he came to me and he said, Sophie, can we have a bit of fun? And I said, what do you mean by a bit of fun? And he said, well, can we have a bit of fun on stage? And I was like, yeah, you can have a bit of fun, right? Because at the end of the day, you're on stage. It was his first time on stage. He was super happy to do that. I guess he didn't have any stage fright or anything because it's not the same kind of pressure. For him, it was just like, and I said to the guys, I just want to tell you, I told Inayat he's allowed to have fun on stage. So just watch out. Yeah. And then there was this scene where they had to queue for the donation. And so the instruction was you queue and you don't do anything. Yeah. You just stay in a line. And Inayat is quite short. He's like 1 meter 60, something like that. And there's another guy in the cast called Gareth, and he's like 2 meters high. And Gareth was just behind him. And so he was supposed to stay really straight like that. And then he was like, he looked at Gareth behind him and he started to touch his muscles and compared his muscles to Gareth one and whatever. And the audience was in stitches. Like he did a proper clown silent show for like 5 minutes. And it was so funny. And then Gareth at the end of the show was like, why did he choose me? I was about to laugh so many times. Why did he choose me to have fun with? He was like, yeah, well, he said that. Yeah. It was so nice to see the pleasure of having fun without just the performance pressure or being good or being talented. Just have fun. And enjoying the laughters in the audience and just milking it. He milked it, yeah, completely.
And also the pleasure of having fun, because that's something that I think the media and the public who are not asylum seekers or refugees often deny people who've experienced trauma, or we have these ideas that, oh, to be a refugee, to be a victim is this very solemn, it's this very solemn occasion. And something something that's part of the mission of Clowns Without Borders is of course offering opportunities for joy, awe, a moment of relaxation through our performances, but also of telling the stories of our audience and sharing the stories of our audiences in refugee camps laughing and playing and actually coming on stage with their own stories and performances. And so I'd love to know, because I know that you spent some time in the Calais jungle, and kind of what were your expectations, or were there moments where you saw joy in what we know were these really pretty much inhumane circumstances?
Well, I went to Calais because I'm French, living in the UK, and I've always done social theatre. I worked with women in prison, did a show about that with ex-offenders, and so I went to Calais not with anything in mind theatre-wise, but just I guess to do some volunteer work. I arrived there a tiny bit scared, I have to say, even though I had other experiences. Like everyone around me, my family, friends were like, "Oh, be careful, da da da," you know. So I arrived. I remember with my little sandwich because I thought, I'll be hungry, and I'll tell you why it's funny. And I arrived there with my friend, and the first image, it's the Hollywood chewing gum ad, with this beautiful so it was in August, and there was a man washing his hair, and then he went like that. And it was just like in Hollywood chewing gum, like the long hair, like a beautiful, handsome man with green eyes. I was with a friend of mine, and I was like, oh wow, is that the Calais jungle? Like first experience. Oh, they're actually really handsome young men. You always think refugees must be like something, like people have dead people, or I don't know. I had and then I arrived there, and I was, of course, the place was very muddy and not an easy place, but still they had built like a church, a mosque, a barber, a Turkish bath, restaurants everywhere. The food was like bloody amazing. I was completely stupid with my sandwich that I hid in my bag and just went for the restaurant instead. And so I was gobsmacked by, I guess, to see beauty, to see resilience, to see so much vital energy. And I was like, oh my God, like they are so resilient. Like we're actually missing something, because obviously they're super talented, resourceful, and it's we have so much to learn from them rather than just coming to help. Um, and yes, little by little, I got to know people and fantastic musicians sometimes, people loving, to play games. I witnessed a fashion show they did. Again, I was completely gobsmacked. They used the silly donations they received. So like they had sex toys, wedding dress, bikini, high heels, and they did a fashion show with it. And I was like, oh my God, that's just a genius idea. Like, how ridiculous it is to send these things to a refugee camp. And that's where the idea came up of, okay, so if they want to do it via humor, let's do that. That was the first time for me. I had done some clowning workshop, and my sister is a clown artist, and so I was already a bit in this world, but that was not originally my world. But I thought, actually, I think that's the best way to do it, because the plays I had seen about refugees and asylum seekers usually were very realistic plays, or that would trigger more pity, more sadness, more miserabilism, and I thought, no, I don't want that. I really want to show what I guess struck me when I arrived there, like that they are handsome, talented, resourceful, strong young men who crossed the whole world. So let's show something different and hope that the audience want to just have a drink with them after, and do a bit of music and dance in the foyer, and convey a different image, like something positive that make you want to meet them rather than generate more pity. I mean, we have enough of that. There's so much fear, so much sadness that is sticking to their skin already. And the press, people, all people who come to do, many people who go to the Calais jungle like for an afternoon to, we call them the story harvester. Oh, tell me your story, and then they do whatever they want with it after, without really asking for permission, or do a short film or interview, but always with a bit of a morbid fascination, I find. And I thought, okay, now I want to try and do something that will convey something completely different, that will celebrate their resilience and their talent.
It's something that we've started using as a framework for all of the Clowns Without Borders blogs, and all of the sort of the media that we try to share, is this idea of restorative narrative. And it's in some ways very easy to ask the question, what has gone wrong, and to only tell the story of that lists off the traumas or the injustices. And it's something really different to say, okay, what's a more full story? Because if you were to you could tell a story about me only through bad things that have happened, but oof, I would get very mad about that, right? And to have that piece, and I think the courage as creators of media, and then also consumers, to always be asking, what's the full story, and what's the full personhood, what's more than just this number of this many people have been displaced, like what's the richness there. I'd love to know a bit more about this idea of joy as resistance. And you've said that fashion show was kind of when that moment started. And how are you now thinking about joy as an act of resistance?
Well, I think on many levels. I think nowadays media convey almost, and social media, there's a fascination for bad news, terrible news. They come back again and again and again. Brexit, COVID, elections, whatever it is, you know. And I think it's affecting our mental health. To be honest, and I think generating joy is something very precious for me, at least. In general, without talking about refugees, in general, and but for me, it's still very important to raise awareness about things. I guess I'm not completely a comedy person just for the sake of comedy. I like raising awareness about important subject, but I really like the idea of doing it through joy, laughter, humor. Also because I guess it gives the permission in a way to be more shocking or more violent for the performer and for the audience member, without creating something that would put people off. Because if you're too violent directly, then the audience might just, put, which is normal, like some kind of protective barrier. But if you do it through humor, people open up and laugh. And it's only after, maybe when you go back home or a few minutes later or the day after, that you suddenly realize, oh, wait a minute, that was actually horrible what happened there. For example, Mohamed shared how he crossed on a lorry, and so he wanted to talk about the refrigerated lorry. Many asylum seekers had really terrific experience, and some, lost their lives on trying to cross. So what Mohamed chose was to talk about a refrigerated lorry. So he played the frozen refugee. So when he arrived in the UK, he was looked up. So the policeman had to carry him as an ice cube, yeah. And of course, people laughed a lot because Mohamed is really fun. He was talking like, "Hello, is it you okay?" Because he was frozen, so he couldn't open his mouth. And it was really, really hilarious. But I know that a few people then came back to me after the show, was like, wait a minute, like, was he was frozen, right? I mean, people were really frozen, some people. And so it was, for me, it's perfect because it creates, laughter creates a bond between the actor and the audience. It creates a relationship, it warms things up, but at the same time you can convey some very violent messages. And it's so for me, that's the perfect format to address something, raise awareness, but also to make sure that the people who perform first have a bit of a protective filter themselves, because they do it through humor. It's not direct, and they shine. They look amazing. They don't look like a victim. It's about expressing something true that happened to you, but that you have kind of remodeled in another form that makes you go from victim to actor, to owning your story and shaping it in an artistic and beautiful and funny way. So it's a very different perception than audience will have from you. I don't know if I'm being clear, but yeah.
Yes, that makes so much sense. And I think about it as, a clown show is an emotional roller coaster, because as clowns, we get angry, we get sad, we laugh, we fall in love, we get sad again. And often it's the laughter is a place where the audience first wants to join that emotional roller coaster. And once we invite someone to laugh together, it's like then opens up that possibility to cry together, or to experience some frustration together, and to have those pieces. I mean, I think the laughter, the comedy tragedy coin is very, it switches back and forth. And when we invite someone to laugh with us, we're also, I think, if we're creating comedy in a really sensitive way, we're also saying, hey, we're here to also grieve together, or
yeah.
we're here for it all.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. For me, laughter has a soothing power as well. Healing is maybe too big. I wouldn't want to say. I mean, of course, trauma is bigger than that, and I don't. But there's definitely something soothing. I think in being able to laugh. It's a relief of tension and of pain. And I remember Inaya telling me, even he said that several people said that even on their journey, laughter was what kept them sane. You know, he said, I remember, so I said he was not very tall, and so he used to wear 2 pair of jeans when trying to jump over the fence, because as he's not very tall, he said one day I got stuck on top of the fence, and so I had to jump and my whole jean ripped off, and the guys laughed so much because he had his bum out basically, and he said it was so good to laugh together, you know, and just to forget about this shit for just a few seconds. Obviously, you know, hell came back quite quickly, but laughter was kept people together, community together, and just helped go through hell, really. No, I strongly believe in laughter, that many properties that are so important.
And I guess my next question is really around the hostile environment policy, and kind of what's happening right now for migrants and asylum seekers in the UK. So a quick like tiny blurb of the hostile environment policy was a policy that was created with the intention of creating an environment that was unwelcoming for refugees and asylum seekers, and then also the added part of that, which was to make it the UK an unwelcoming, a hostile environment for migrants who were already in the UK. And so I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about that.
So that's something I discovered while creating Borderline, because obviously I was creating it with people who had just arrived, who were asylum seekers. So many examples. One of them, we were in rehearsal, and one of the performer kept arriving late 2 or 3 days in a row, and I said, you know, we need to start at 10. Can you make sure you put your alarm on? And he said, oh, sorry, I'm struggling to sleep. And I was like, why do you struggle to sleep? And he said, well, because actually I'm in the street. I was like, what do you mean you're in the street? And he said, yeah, it's my 28 days. And I said, what is your 28 days? What's that? And they explained to me that, so you go through the asylum process, and it's completely absurd, because when you're an asylum seeker, they give you a room. It's not amazing, obviously, it's temporary accommodation, usually quite shit, but you still have a roof on your head. But then once you have your interview, and they decide that they accept you as a refugee, they give you the refugee status. So I guess they acknowledge that you went through really traumatic experience, that your life is in danger in your country. Well, that's, for some reason, the moment we're in the UK, it's different in France, but in the UK, you have 28 days from that day to open a bank account, find an accommodation, you know, do a whole series of documents. That is, get a national insurance number, which in itself take at least 3 weeks to get. So it's absolutely impossible to do that in 28 days. So a lot of people became homeless, or they get help from charities or friends that they met and find a place to stay. That's what happened for Mohammed. But and I was like, but that's ridiculous. We just acknowledge that this person is a refugee and needs refuge, and what we give him is the street, you know. And after that, I mean, the hostile environment policies is a lot of little things, what I've been explained. Like, for example, they will change your home office appointment maybe half an hour before and send you an email, except you don't necessarily have access to email, especially not just half an hour before. And then when you arrive and say, oh, you missed your appointment, sorry, you have to wait another 6 months or another 9 months, you know. So it's just little things like that to make your life difficult, to make sure that the process is going to be hell. It's I guess as European, we're also more recently after Brexit more included into that. So the second show we created, that was called Welcome to the UK, it was actually quite fun because that was just after Brexit happened. I mean, the vote. And so a few of us, me included, stuff. So we were in the room talking about that. So I was like, guys, so where are we going to do it? Where are we going to dress? And do we talk about Brexit or not? And then Bara, the Syrian actor, mentioned, he was like, yeah, of course we talk about you. This time you're in the shit with us. There's no reason why we don't talk about you. Welcome, guys. And yeah, so that was that was a full-on show about we set it up in a fun fair, a horrible rusty fun fair with a big sign, welcome to the UK, with the the light bulbs and a bit falling apart, and it the different attractions where all the things that people have to go through to get their settled status in the UK.
I love the that dingy funfair also makes me think of sort of the preposterous donations and these moments that's like, oh well, why would we need this, or like, oh, you're broken something. And we have a comment on Facebook about loving the term story harvester, and just the difference of being a story harvester versus a someone who wants to hear what's the story. I think my last question, unless anyone who's watching on Facebook Live, if you have a question for Sophie, please type it in the comments. But I'd love to know, Sophie, how COVID is impacting your work, and how you're still working to cross borders and make theater in COVID.
Well, COVID, as many companies, we're now online. So again, we're running this workshop, the Together workshop, on Wednesday and Sundays that are free. Everyone is welcome. So we're trying. So I'm really happy because I think we got most of the community back online, but it's not an easy one. Because some people don't have computer, don't have internet, so we try to provide for that. We're setting up a winter appeal to help with that, because my aim is really to reach the most isolated people, women in particular with children, who might really struggle to join, and it's really difficult. I mean, I'd say the main impact of COVID is, first, it slowed down the asylum process. So people who arrived like 9 months ago, they still didn't have their interviews, and so that's really, really daunting and really affecting mental health a lot. The fact that everything slowed down, and people feel more isolated. I've had several people who were in very, very difficult situations, because usually they attend a few workshops, or they do this, so there's always someone to be aware of what's going on in their life, but suddenly they don't anymore. They are shielding, some of them. And so for me, it's really to try to be aware of what's going on for who. If I didn't hear for someone for a few days, or I give a call. So I do more home visits. I do more, Messenger, WhatsApp messages, checking that people are okay. And then in terms of shows, we did with Borderline, with our group, we did a little online 3 minutes video that was quite nice. At least we stayed in touch every week. We have a messenger group to do to stay in touch as well. And with the people from the Together workshop, again, I'm working on creating maybe not a show, that would be probably a bit too much, but at least like you're doing now, like a Facebook Live kind of workshop where people can share poetry they've written, or songs, or so. Yeah, we're doing our best, really, but it's obviously very difficult times. It's really tricky, but there's really nice solidarity coming out of it, I have to say. Really nice.
And we have a question. Okay, now you get to see my reading face. Okay, this is, how do you practice self-care, and either leaving Calais or ending a show must be an incredible letdown with a lot, like with an adrenaline drop. So how do you manage self-care and then also with hostility towards migrants? How do you yeah, that's
So yeah, so the end of the show is a really good question, because I've seen that as a problem very often. So that's why I created the Together workshop. I created the workshop before the end of Borderline, because I thought, oh, I want a space where we can continue to meet, yeah, once it's finished. Except Borderline didn't finish. We went on tour, and so we were very lucky with that. But still, people came to the workshop, some of them, or brought friends, and it became bigger. So that was an aftercare place to make sure people know every Sunday, they can come. So that was one thing. The messenger group, definitely, we send silly videos, messages, jokes, blah blah blah. We continued the dinners. Unfortunately, COVID, it makes it very difficult, but usually there's a dinner at mine or somewhere else every month, definitely. So yeah, we stayed in touch as much as possible. And yeah, I think, yeah, trying to, we were lucky, some very strong friendship happened within the group. So I guess there was some little units that supported each other within the bigger group, because of course there were more and more participants. So I'd say Borderline is maybe 20-25 people now, because we had new participants, but there are some little units within it. And again, if I see that someone doesn't write for quite a long time, I just send a little message checking how people are doing. And yeah, online we had we learned the self-hug. So we do a lot of self-hug like that. So I'm like, no, tighter, do bigger hugs than that, you know that. Yeah, we do what we can, really. We try to keep the laughter on, definitely. Like, I joke a lot. That what keeps me alive as well, I think. Say.
I love that, and the idea of the self hug as the friend who always hugs like for a long time, right? I feel like those are the friends I really miss. Those friends who you're like, wait, are we gonna? Oh no, we're not done. We're not done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I check them. No, what do you mean? I do much longer hug. Go
back. So are your workshops something that anyone on Zoom could join, and how do we join? I think Nicola's dropping the link in, but if someone wanted to join, what should they bring?
They bring nothing, just a smile, I guess, and that's it. So we have some women workshop. So that's on Wednesday. So UK time, it's between 1 and 3 every Wednesday. And then another workshop open to all on Sundays between 4:30 and 6 every Sunday. The events are on our Facebook page, so PsychDelight company, and they are called the Together Workshop. And you just, it's the same Zoom link every week. So once you come once, it's easy. You can just reuse it. And you just come, we do games, we do different breakout rooms. So maybe we do one breakout room, so we'll do a bit of writing. The other day we wrote a letter to COVID. One other room where we're going to do some dancing, or we did a Halloween party. Or so depending on your mood, you go in whatever breakout room you want and meet some people there, different nationalities. We've got, it became an anti-Brexit refugee whatever place. So people from very different nationalities and ages, children are welcome. It goes from 2 to 75 years old probably. So yeah, everyone welcome. We celebrate diversity and coming together and having fun and trying to forget about the shit happening in the world, basically.
Sophie, thank you so much. It's been such a delight to have you here and to get to learn about your incredible work. So
thank you, Naomi, for having me. That was super nice. And good luck with everything.
Thank you. Okay, goodbye, Facebook.
Bye.